What if I told you that your greatest strength isn't found in control, intelligence, or confidence, but in stillness? That there's a rare kind of person who moves through the world unaffected not because life is easy for them, but because they've learned a secret most never discover. Chaos erupts around them. Insults are hurled. Plans fall apart. People betray them, but they remain unmoved. Not because they don't feel, but because they've stopped being ruled by what happens outside of them. These people aren't lucky. They aren't special. They're simply awake. And the truth is, anyone can become like this if they're willing to confront one simple but uncomfortable truth. You are not reacting to the world. You're reacting to your perception of it. Most people spend their entire lives in a state of reactivity. One moment they're calm, the next they're raging because someone cut them off in traffic. A passive-aggressive comment at work derails their entire day. A strange look from a stranger can send them into a spiral of self-doubt. Every emotion is dictated by something or someone else. And they don't even realize it. They live like leaves in the wind blown around by circumstances, moods, and other people's behavior. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you could walk through life without being emotionally hijacked at every turn? Carl Jung believed that most people are prisoners of their reactions. They think the world is doing something to them when in reality, they are simply mirroring the parts of themselves they haven't yet faced. And that's where the power lies. Because here's the hard truth, nothing can disturb you unless it finds something inside you to attach to. If someone calls you weak and it stings, it's because some part of you fears they might be right. If someone ignores you and it hurts, it's because you still need validation from outside yourself. Every insult, every rejection, every trigger is just a mirror showing you something unhealed within. That's why two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different responses. One is shattered, the other is unfazed. It was never about the event. It was always about the inner landscape of the person experiencing it. This is what shadow work is all about, the practice of bringing the unconscious into the light. Instead of blaming the world for how you feel, you start asking deeper questions. Why did that bother me? What fear did that tap into? What belief is being exposed right now? Most people never ask. They run, they distract, they get defensive, they lash out. But the ones who are truly free from being controlled by people, by situations, by their past, they face those questions head on. Because once you realize that every trigger is a teacher, every reaction a message, you stop trying to control the world and you start mastering yourself. And here's the paradox that changes everything. The moment you stop reacting, you stop being controlled. You don't need to cut negative people out of your life. You don't need to manipulate every situation so it goes your way. You don't need to obsess over how others treat you. You simply become immune, not detached, not numb. Just grounded in the kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken by something as fragile as circumstance. This is the difference between surface-level confidence and deep-rooted presence. One wavers. The other stands firm, no matter what. But why is it so rare? Why do most people live in reaction rather than presence? Because it's easier to believe that the world is to blame. It's easier to say that your boss made you angry, your partner made you insecure, your past made you broken. It's much harder to look inward and say, that reaction came from me, that emotion was mine. That pain was already there. But once you do, you realize something life-changing. No one else has the power to disturb your peace unless you hand it to them. And once you stop handing it out so freely, you reclaim something most never experience. True freedom. Let's be honest, most of us have spent years, maybe decades, trying to control things we were never meant to control. We want people to respect us. We want circumstances to unfold perfectly. We want certainty, predictability, approval, and every time the world doesn't deliver, we suffer. We get frustrated when people don't act the way we expect. We feel betrayed when plans fall apart. We spiral when life doesn't match our imagined timeline. We take it personally, as if the universe is targeting us. But here's the deeper truth. The world was never supposed to obey you. It was only ever meant to reflect you. Carl Jung said, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, it will tell you." What he meant was this: if you don't consciously choose your perception of the world, your unconscious wounds will choose for you, and you'll walk through life thinking everything is happening to you when in fact, it's all happening because of you. The moment you start shifting that lens, everything changes. Life becomes less about control and more about observation, less about forcing outcomes and more about understanding the meaning you assign to them. And suddenly, what once made you anxious now just passes through. What once felt like betrayal now feels like revelation. What once felt like rejection now feels like redirection. Perception is the only thing you truly control. Not people, not outcomes, not the past or the future, just how you interpret the moment. Think about it. When people lose their job, one collapses into fear and despair. The other uses it as fuel to build something better. The difference isn't the event, it's the perception. One person believes life is over. The other believes life just began. Same moment, different meaning. And the story you tell yourself about that moment, that's what decides whether you suffer or grow. So if you're tired of living at the mercy of what happens around you, if you're exhausted by the emotional roller coaster of being constantly triggered, this is the beginning of the end. Not the end of feeling, but the end of being ruled by feeling. Not the end of reacting, but the beginning of responding with clarity, presence, and choice. You are not here to control the world. You are here to master the one thing the world can never take from you: your own mind. Most people believe they are reacting to the world around them, but the truth is far more unsettling. They're reacting to themselves, to their own unexamined beliefs, unconscious fears, and unresolved emotions. Imagine this: someone walks by and throws an insult your way. Maybe they call you a failure, or weak, or unworthy. Now ask yourself, what exactly is happening in that moment? Are their words truly the source of your pain? Or is the reaction arising from something already buried within you, something unhealed, something that was just waiting for the right moment to surface? Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He called it the shadow, the part of ourselves we hide, repress, deny. And yet, ironically, it's the shadow that controls most of our lives. It dictates how we respond, what we fear, what we chase, and what we avoid. Every time you get triggered by someone's comment, every time a situation leaves you spiraling emotionally, you're not reacting to the world. You're reacting to the echo of your own shadow. Think about it: if someone called you something completely absurd, like a two-headed unicorn, you'd laugh it off. Why? Because there's no part of you that believes it might be true. But if someone calls you lazy or unlovable, and that does sting, it's only because a part of you has already been whispering that fear to yourself. Their words didn't create the pain, they simply revealed it. This is why Jung said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And this is where most people run. They lash out at the person. They try to silence the insult. They avoid similar situations. But all of that is just distraction. Because the truth is, if you can be easily shaken, then the shaking is not the problem. The fragility within is. And until that changes, nothing else will. This is why emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about becoming radically honest. Honest about what still lives inside you. Honest about the wounds you haven't yet healed. Because once you see clearly what has power over you, you can begin to take that power back. The insult that once broke you now becomes a teacher. The disrespect that once enraged you now becomes a mirror. The rejection that once shattered your confidence now becomes an invitation to stop needing what others can withhold. And that's the beginning of freedom. The freedom to walk through life unshaken, not because the world is kind, but because you are no longer easily disturbed. But here's what makes this journey so difficult. Your brain has been trained to react. Neurologically, emotionally, psychologically. You've been conditioned from a young age to give your power away to external things. If someone praises you, you feel good. If someone criticizes you, you feel terrible. If something goes your way, you're confident. If it doesn't, you spiral. This is the pattern that keeps you trapped, because it means your peace is always conditional, always dependent on circumstances outside of your control. But here's the truth that changes everything. The strongest people aren't the ones who have the best circumstances. They're the ones who've learned how to break this pattern. They've rewired their minds to respond instead of react. They've trained themselves to pause, to observe, to reflect before handing over their energy to someone else. And this is where the real transformation begins. Because once you stop reacting automatically, you start responding intentionally. You stop being pulled in 100 directions by whatever the world throws at you. You become still, centered, grounded. You develop a mind that can remain calm even when everything around you is falling apart. And here's the paradox. The more you stop needing control, the more control you actually gain. Not over others, not over circumstances, but over the one thing that matters most, your own inner world. But let's take this deeper. Why do we even crave control in the first place? Why do we cling so tightly to the need for things to go our way? It's because somewhere along the line, we started believing that peace, happiness, and worth were all outcomes, things that happen after we get what we want. We tell ourselves, once they respect me, then I'll be calm. Once I succeed, then I'll feel good enough. Once everything goes perfectly, then I'll relax. But that's the trap. Because life was never designed to conform to your expectations. People are unpredictable. Plans fall apart. Situations change. And the more tightly you grip the illusion that you can control them, the more pain you create for yourself. Carl Jung didn't just understand this, he lived it. He saw clearly that the external world is neutral. It's not good or bad, right or wrong, cruel or kind. It simply is. What gives it meaning is your perception, and your perception is shaped not by facts, but by stories you've absorbed over time about who you are, what you deserve, and how life works. Until those unconscious stories are examined, you'll keep reacting the same way over and over. Not because the world is against you, but because your mind is interpreting it that way. Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you living in response to life, or in reaction to your past? Because the more you try to control the outer world, the more enslaved you become by it. The moment you need someone to approve of you, you give them power over your self-worth. The moment you need a situation to go perfectly, it owns your peace. The moment you need life to follow your script, you set yourself up for endless disappointment. But once you stop needing and start observing, everything shifts. Suddenly you can walk through life with confidence, not because things are easy, but because your state of mind is no longer at their mercy. And this is the great paradox of detachment. When you stop needing things to go your way, they often do. When you stop craving approval, you become more authentic, and people are drawn to that. When you stop chasing success out of fear, you attract it more naturally. The less you cling, the more things flow, not because the world changes, but because you've changed the way you show up in it. You've let go of the illusion of control and stepped into the freedom of response. That's when life begins to feel different. Not because it's become perfect, but because you're no longer depending on it to be. This is the path few walk, the path of inner mastery. It doesn't promise comfort, but it offers power, the kind of power that can't be taken, manipulated, or destroyed. The power to remain unshaken, not because the storm has passed, but because you've become the storm's calm center. That's where true freedom begins. Not when the world stops testing you, but when you no longer need to pass the test to feel whole. So how do you step into this state of untouchable presence, the kind of presence where no insult rattles you, no chaos moves you, no external event breaks the stillness within? It begins not with trying to control the world, but with realizing that you never needed to. It starts the moment you accept that your reactions have never been about the world, but about the meaning your mind assigns to it. When someone dismisses you and you feel small, the dismissal isn't the source of your pain, it's your interpretation of it. When plans fall apart and you feel anxious, it's not the uncertainty that breaks you, it's your need for certainty that does. This is the foundation of detachment. Not in the cold, emotionless sense that most people think, but in the liberating sense of not being owned by your expectations, your triggers, or your attachments. Detachment means reclaiming your mind. It means choosing to observe before you react, to question before you believe, to pause before you identify with a thought or emotion that wants to define you. And this isn't about running from your emotions, it's about meeting them head-on with awareness so deep that they dissolve under your observation. You start seeing emotions for what they are, passing weather in the vast sky of your mind. Anger, fear, jealousy, shame, and none of them define you. They are visitors. You can acknowledge their presence without giving them power. And when you stop fighting your emotions and start watching them with clarity, something incredible happens. You no longer get swept away. You remain grounded. You begin to respond with wisdom rather than react out of habit. But how do you cultivate this inner strength? It begins with self-awareness, but it's maintained through daily discipline. Think of it like training a muscle. You don't lift weights once and expect to be strong forever. The same is true with your mind. You have to confront discomfort regularly. You have to observe your triggers instead of denying them. You have to lean into the tension between who you are and who you've been pretending to be, because every time you do, you grow. Every time you pause instead of explode, listen instead of defend, breathe instead of panic, you're teaching your nervous system a new response. You're rewiring your mind to remain calm in the storm. And this process isn't easy, but it's the only thing that leads to true freedom. Because the truth is, most people are living like puppets. Strings pulled by opinions, validation, rejection, praise, and failure. Their sense of self-worth rises and falls with every like, every compliment, every setback. But the moment you cut those strings, you stop being a puppet and start becoming the one who watches the play not with apathy, but with presence. The insults don't sting the same. The praise doesn't inflate your ego. The chaos doesn't steal your peace. And this doesn't mean you stop feeling it, means you stop being owned by what you feel. You feel it, fully, but you don't become it. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate this state is to practice what some call witness consciousness, the ability to see your thoughts and emotions as something separate from your identity. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are not your thoughts. You are the one witnessing all of it. And the more you identify with that inner observer, the less power the external world has over you. You stop chasing people's approval. You stop fearing their rejection. You stop needing situations to unfold a certain way in order to be okay. You start finding a steady place inside yourself, one that doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. And here's the paradox. When you become less reactive, the world starts reacting to you. People feel your presence. They notice your stillness. They can't shake you, manipulate you, or pull you into drama, because you're no longer giving them the buttons to push, you've taken them back. That's real power, not dominance, not control, but the kind of quiet authority that comes from having nothing to prove. And when you reach that level of inner clarity, your energy changes. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You act less impulsively, but your actions cut deeper. You stop needing to convince, and you start simply being, and that alone begins to shift everything around you. And all of this isn't just mystical or philosophical, it's rooted in psychology. Studies on mindfulness, cognitive reframing, and emotional regulation show us that the brain is malleable. You can rewire your response patterns. You can reduce emotional reactivity. You can train your attention to stay grounded in the present moment rather than getting hijacked by your past conditioning. But you have to do the work. You have to sit with the discomfort, examine your wounds, and stop blaming the world for what's happening inside of you. That's where real transformation happens. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation becoming whole by integrating the parts of yourself you've hidden, denied, or projected onto others. When you see yourself clearly, you see the world clearly. And when you stop trying to fix the world and start understanding yourself, everything starts to shift. The same problems don't trigger the same reactions. The same people don't hold the same power. The same chaos doesn't disturb your peace. Because you've built your foundation on something unshakable: self-awareness, presence, detachment. And from this place, you begin to live with real freedom. You start choosing your energy instead of reacting to the energy around you. You start setting boundaries not from anger, but from clarity. You begin creating a life that reflects your truth, not your trauma. And you start inspiring others not by preaching, but by embodying the calm they wish they had. The untouchable mind isn't some abstract ideal. It's a daily practice, a commitment to presence, a refusal to surrender your peace to the chaos of the world. And once you experience even a glimpse of that kind of power, you'll never want to go back. Because nothing, not praise, not blame, not failure, not even loss can touch the person who has mastered themselves. And in a world that profits from your reactivity, that kind of presence becomes the most powerful rebellion of all.